Namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudiraet nashtapraeshu bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki Om Jnanatimidandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Okay, so today we are reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 18, Text 21. Just trying to get a little bigger so you guys can see. Okay. Atapi atparanakava shrishtam. I know there's another melody. Anyway. Atapi atparanakavarishtam Jagat Vidin Chopahritarhanamba Jagat Vidin Chopahritaram Namba Shesham Punatyat Yan Yatamo Mukundat Shesham Punatyan Yatamo Mukundat Ko Namaloke Bhagavat Padartha Ko Namaloke Bhagavat Padartha. Okay, and then the synonyms together. Ata, therefore. Api, certainly. Yat, whose. Padanaka, nails of the feet. Avashrishtam, emanating. Jagat, the whole universe. Vidincha, Brahmaji. Upahrita, collected. Arhana, worship. Amba, water. Sa, along with. Isham, Lord Shiva. Punati, purifies. Anyatama, who else? Mukundat, besides the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna. Kaha, who? Nama, name. Loke, within the world. Bhagavat, the Supreme Lord. Pada, position. Artha, worth. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Who can be worthy of the name of the Supreme Lord but the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna? Brahmaji collected the water emanating from the nails of his feet in order to award it to Lord Shiva as a worshipful welcome. This very water, the Ganges, is purifying the whole universe, including Lord Shiva. So this verse, before we go to the purport, this verse is, we're establishing Krishna as the supreme above all others, right? So there's many, Ishwaras is the word for controller. There's many Ishwaras, but there's one supreme Ishwara, right? And so we call him Parameshwar, which means the one supreme. Param means the other one. So there may be many of something, but there's one that rules over all the others. And so that's called Param. So Param Ishwara is Krishna. And we know that Brahma also establishes that in the Brahma Samhita, Ishwara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha. In that verse, he says, Ishwara Parama Krishna. He's the supreme Ishwara, the supreme controller. So he's the one above all the others. And so you have sometimes you see that there are worshipers of Shiva who consider Shiva the supreme. So it's also being mentioned here that that water that comes from Krishna's feet also purifies Lord Shiva, including Lord Shiva. We put him in there. So Prabhupada's going to talk about that a little bit. Purport. The conception of many gods in the Vedic literatures by the ignorant is completely wrong. The Lord is one without a second. So that's what Padam means. It means one without a second. It's the one that's separate from all the others. But he expands himself in many ways, and this is confirmed in the Vedas. Such expansions of the Lord are limitless, but some of them are the living entities. The living entities are not as powerful as the Lord's plenary expansions, and therefore there are two different types of expansions. Lord Brahma is generally one of the living entities, And Lord Shiva is the medium between the Lord and the living entities. In other words, even demigods like Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, who are the chief amongst all demigods, are never equal to or greater than Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, and all powerful demigods like Brahma and Shiva are engaged in the worship of Vishnu or Lord Krishna. Therefore, who can be more powerful than Mukunda, Lord Krishna, to be factually called the Supreme Personality of Godhead? The goddess of fortune, Lakshmiji, Lord Brahma, and Lord Shiva are not independently powerful. They are powerful as expansions of the Supreme Lord, and all of them are engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. And so also are the living entities. There are 4 sects of worshipful devotees of the Lord, and the chief amongst them are the Brahma Sampradaya, Rudra Sampradaya, and Sri Sampradaya, descending directly from Brahma, Lord Shiva, and the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, respectively. Besides the above-mentioned 3 Sampradayas, there is the Kumara Sampradaya, descending from Sanat Kumar. All of the 4 original Sampradayas are still scrupulously engaged in the transcendental service of the Lord up to date. And they all declare that Lord Krishna, Mukunda, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and no other personality is equal to him or greater than him. So I'll read the verse one more time. Who can be worthy of the name of the Supreme Lord but the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna? Brahmaji collected the water emanating from the nails of his feet in order to award it to Lord Shiva as a worshipful welcome. This very water, the Ganges, is purifying the whole universe, including Lord Shiva. So everything is emanating from Krishna. So those out there in Zoom land or in person, what's the verse in the Bhagavatam that establishes that all other avatars or incarnations of Krishna come from Krishna? He's the fountainhead. What's that verse? Anyone?
Krishnastu Swayam Bhagavan.
Yeah, do you know the whole verse?
No.
H jumps up. What's the Jesus funny? I remember Krishna's too, Bhagavan Swayam. What's the whole verse? You know that verse? Yeah. Krishna's too, Bhagavan Swayam. What's the rest? Do you know the rest? I'm drawing a blank on the other 2 lines.
Yeah,
If any,
it is 1.3.28.
okay, let me go to it. Oops, that's the Gita.
Yeah, it
Let's
is
see.
Eta Chamsa Kalha Pumsa Krishna tu Bhagavan Swayam.
What is it? 1:3:28?
Yes, 1.3.28.
Yeah, Krishna's the fountainhead of all. All the above mentioned, so they're talking about all the incarnations. All the above mentioned incarnations are either plenary portions or portions of the plenary portions of the Lord. But Lord Sri Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. All of them appear on planets whenever there is a disturbance created by the atheists. The Lord incarnates to protect the theists. Ete chamsa kalapungsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Anjari Vyakulam Lokam Bridayanti Yuge Yuge. So this line, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, just that everything is coming from Krishna, because it's who do people usually think Krishna emanates from? There's a common misconception. I'll mute myself in case anybody.
Vishnu, I think.
Yeah, there's a common misconception that all of the incarnations emanate from Vishnu. But Rupa Goswami establishes Krishna as the supreme amongst all the other, even Vishnu incarnations, by listing the qualities of Krishna as opposed to the qualities of everybody else. So first 50 of those qualities are describing who? Krishna and who else?
Jivas or Brahma. Basically, like the maximum position you can reach to.
Yeah, it's the first 50 we share with Krishna, but in a smaller quantity, right? So we have the qualities, which may not be manifest right now in our current conditioned state, but we have the qualities, but they're not in the same quantity. And you can find that in the Nectar of Devotion. Rupa Goswami lists that, the first 50 qualities. Then the next 5 qualities, up to 55, who shares that with Krishna?
Lord Shiva.
I think most of the demigods do, right? The demigods share those 5 qualities. Think 50 to 51 to 55 is the demigods. Then 56 to 60 is who?
That is Lord Shiva, I think.
Lord Shiva, he has some of them, but it's mostly the Narayan expansions of Krishna. I think, I can't remember specifically, but Shiva's, because he's somewhere in between. It's not quite just the qualities of demigods, but it's also not quite all the qualities of Narayan. And then there's 4 more. Then there's the last 4 of the 64 qualities. And the last 4 are what? What are the 4 qualities that Rupa Goswami describes Krishna as having that absolutely nobody else has? Because Rupa Goswami is establishing by numbers that Krishna is above all the other living beings in the world, including the Vishnu or Narayan avatars. And he has 4 qualities that separates him from everybody else. Of course, he's listing these 4 qualities, but we know there's other things like he's the source of everything, he's in control of everything. But what are the 4 qualities that sets him apart?
Rupa, Guna, Leela, Venu, I think.
Okay, what's the English?
It will be tough.
Anyone know the English? Or like, if you were to describe in English what those 4 things are?
Palm, 1.
Yes. So basically, he is able to manifest wonderful pastime. Basically, Leela, like he wonderful pastimes, right? And then he is expert in playing the transcendental flute, which is a Venu, right? And then he's surrounded by loving devotees, and then he possesses unparalleled personal beauty, Rupa.
Yeah, exactly. If you're going to talk about if there's going to be a beauty contest, he's going to win every single time. It doesn't matter who else is there. He's more beautiful than any other living being. We could come close. The demigods can come close, um, but Krishna is the most beautiful. And his flute playing, as you said, it attracts the whole world, right? They say that when Krishna plays his flute, inanimate objects become animate and animate objects become inanimate. So what's an example of an inanimate object becoming animate? Yeah, trees, stones melt, stones start to melt. And then what's an example of animate objects becoming animate? When they hear Yeah, exactly. People, animals, the deers, they become stunned. The deer, I know English. The deer become stunned when they hear Krishna's flute and the rocks melt. So inanimate objects become animate, the rocks melting, and animate objects become inanimate. People become stunned, animals become stunned when they hear the flute. Also, even Krishna's beauty, when he fought in battles against even demons or people that were against him, they kind of were stunned for a moment when they saw his beauty. They're rushing to attack him, and then wow, he's really good looking. So his beauty, it attracts everybody. It doesn't matter. Then what do we do? The flute playing, and then always surrounded. So you shouldn't see a painting. Prabhupada said that in the beginning days, the early days, his disciples, someone painted a picture of Krishna alone. And Prabhupada said Krishna is never alone. So they put a peacock in there in the picture. But that's something, Krishna is always surrounded by loving devotees. He's never alone. He's never lonely. And then he has, as Hemanga Prabhu said, he has these wonderful pastimes. And Krishna says, Prabhupada says, especially his childhood pastimes. They're very attractive. So he manifests these wonderful pastimes. So those are 4 things that Rupa Goswami establishes that set Krishna apart from everybody else. Okay, so let's get back to. Okay, so now I want to talk a little bit about, Prabhupada says here, the conception of many gods in the Vedic literatures by the ignorance is completely wrong. The Lord is one without a second. So we may have talked about this before, but, and I'm going to go over these verses a little bit, but first I want to get some feedback from the audience. Krishna, if you have many gods, and they're all the supreme controllers, what's the problem? What becomes the problem? If you have many, many supreme controllers, what issues do you run into? Exactly. As Tyler's saying, who's going to control what? You know, who's going to be the controller? Who's going to decide? So what else? What other, so what is that going to end up looking like? What does it look like when a bunch of controllers are trying to control? They're going to fight. They're going to debate over what's the decision should be made, right? And that is a description of the material world, right? Everyone's trying to be the Lord. Everyone's trying to be in charge. Everyone's trying to enforce their opinion. We all do it, right? As conditioned souls, we're all trying to lord it over, to become little Ishwaras. And what ends up happening? We end up fighting. We have wars. We have fist fights. We have like, just especially when people are inebriated, right? There's always like a Hollywood trope that people get into. There's like bar fights where like the whole bar gets into a fight, right? So especially when someone's inebriated, they're particularly not in control. So you have all these people, and then it just gets the scale just gets bigger and bigger when people are trying to control, when they're leaders of something. And they may be leaders of a company, they may be leaders of a country, and then they want to take over other companies or other countries, right? They want to be the supreme. Yeah, they have to have it all. And so you can't be a supreme controller if somebody else can control you. If there's any possibility that someone else can control you, there's not a fight. If Krishna entered a boxing ring, we already know who's going to win, unless he lets the other person win. So, we have this in the spiritual world when Krishna is playing with his friends, as a peer, not as the controller of his friends. He lets them win, but they only win because he lets them. Right. So we know no one can ever defeat Krishna. So the Yamadutas asked this when Ajamila was leaving his body and he had lived a sinful life and the Yamadutas came to get him. Who stopped him? Who stopped the Yamadutas from getting hold of Ajamila? Anyone know? Who stopped the Yamadutas from getting Ajamila and bring him to the world of Yamaraj?
Vishnu Dutas.
Yeah, the Vishnu Dutas came along. And they were like, no, that's not happening. You're not taking him. So there, in case you don't know, there's the Vishnu Dutas are servants of, well, everyone's a servant of Krishna, just some people don't know it. But they come when someone leaves their body, they come to either take them to a spiritual place or the Yamadutas come to keep them back in this world. And so the Yamadutas are functioning under the rule of Yamaraj, who decides where people go after they leave their body. And the Yamadutas were like, this never happened before. How is it that we went to get somebody that you told us to go and get, and they say it actually, these 4 beautiful personalities showed up and they took him. How can that be? And so they raise this question, how can there be many gods? There can't be many gods. So I don't know, you can probably see the screen to some extent. It's a little small, but this is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 3. I'm going to read text 4 through 4 through 8. The Yamadutas said, "Our dear Lord," they're speaking to Yamaraj, "how many controllers or rulers are there in this material world? How many causes are responsible for manifesting the various results of activities performed under the 3 modes of material nature, Sattvaguna, Rajoguna, and Tamoguna? If in this universe there are many rulers and justices who disagree about punishment and reward, their contradictory actions will neutralize each other, and no one will be punished or rewarded. Otherwise, if their contradictory acts fail to neutralize each other, everyone will have to be both punished and rewarded. So it'll be complete chaos, right? If there's a bunch of people deciding who gets punished, who doesn't, just chaos. Can you imagine, like in a courtroom, if there's more than one judge? I mean, you have that sometimes. Sometimes you have a panel of judges, but they work under a set of rules. They operate under a set of rules. But if there are people fighting over who gets what, if there's different people deciding he gets punished, he doesn't get punished, he gets rewarded, and then someone else says, no, he gets rewarded, not punished, and vice versa, then you're getting both reactions, right? There's no law and order. And he said it's either that or it just gets neutralized. I say you get punished. He says you get rewarded. So you get neither.
How do you know what's right and what's wrong?
Right. Then you don't know what's right and what's wrong. It's somebody's decision that they're making. So there's different people trying to decide different things under different circumstances because, well, we can say things are very black and white, right? If someone does a particular thing, they get punished. That's the end of it, right? But now we're seeing a situation with Jamila. That's not the case. It's not so black and white. There are many times gray areas, right? We even see that in Krishna's pastimes. There are situations where 2 different pure devotees think 2 different things should happen. So in the situation with Ashvatthama, after he killed the sleeping sons of Draupadi, what happened? What 2 different people wanted 2 different types of punishments for him or wanted 2 different results for what he did? Does anyone remember that story and what happened? Who was debating what should happen to Ashvatthama?
So Bhima was saying like punish him like by killing him, and then Draupadi was saying forgive him because he's your teacher's son or Brahmana.
What do you remember the other reason why Draupadi said he shouldn't be killed?
Because like his mother will suffer. Like his mother has not done anything wrong. Ashwatthama's mother, like she will suffer, and I know the suffering of a mother because all my 5 sons are died.
And her husband is not there anymore, and he's Guru's son.
Yeah, exactly. She knew what it was like to suffer the loss of her sons, and so she didn't want somebody else to feel that loss. So now Krishna didn't just step in and say, oh, it's black and white, open and close case, right? That's it. It's just he did this thing, he gets this reaction. Krishna actually found a middle ground between the 2 because it was, in a sense, a gray area. But he was the final decision maker, right? Because Draupadi and Bhima they were saying, they were giving their reasons why he should be killed. And Krishna stepped in as the ultimate judge and decided what to do. So what did Krishna end up doing that was like a cross between the two punishments?
He removed the jewel that what he is having on his head so that it will be like killing him or not killing him.
Yeah, and then he cut his hair in a funny way. I think Ashwatthama got the original punk haircut, actually.
Mm.
His hair was
Mm.
cut all wonky and the jewel was removed. So it was for in those days, people were a little more ashamed and were more of course what he did was shameful, but people to be humiliated was the same as death, right? So they killed him without killing him. So the mother still had her son, but he in a sense felt like it was the equivalent of being killed. So we have these situations where there can be gray areas. There needs to be an ultimate judge. So so then the Yamadutas continues, since there are many different karmis or workers, there may be different judges or rulers to give them justice. But just as one central emperor controls different departmental rulers, there must be one supreme controller to guide all the judges. The supreme judge must be one, not many. It was our understanding that you are the supreme judge and that you have jurisdiction even over the demigods. Our impression was that you are the master of all living entities, the supreme authority who discriminates between the pious and impious activities of all human beings. So Yamaraj was given that job to say, let me figure this out, where people go at the time that they're leaving their body. Let me figure out where they go. He had that job, but there was a gray area. And so Krishna came in as the supreme judge, as the Yamadutas are saying, there's got to be a supreme judge. And that supreme judge is Krishna. And the Vishnu Dutas were functioning under the order of Krishna, who is supreme above all others. So there are, because it can be so confusing sometimes, people hear different things. Shiva supreme or Vishnu supreme. It's and it regularly being established in the Bhagavad Gita, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, that Krishna is the Param, he's the one above all the others. And he's qualified because also it's not just might makes right? It's not just that Krishna's super powerful, therefore he like was able to beat up all the other lords, all the other Ishwaras. But he has all the qualifications, as Rupa Goswami explains in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. He has all the qualities, and also as it's saying here, who can be worthy of the name of the Supreme Lord but the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna? And so one may call themselves the Supreme, but they're not worthy of it. They're not qualified for the job. Krishna's the only one that's qualified, and that's what sets him apart from everybody else. It's after 8:30, so I'm going to end there. You can always read about all the qualities of Krishna. It's nice to go into Nectar Devotion and read that chapter with the list of qualities and meditate on it. Meditate on the different things. First of all, the first 50 qualities, because we want to come to that stage in our own conditioned life as we become purified, to come to the stage of having those qualities that are listed there, being generous and so on, compassionate. We as a soul, we have those qualities. So we want to tap into those qualities and behave on that platform rather than behaving on the platform where we're trying to lord it over everyone and everything. Okay, does anyone have any points or questions or comments? Or realizations? Last call on Zoom land.
I have one question I'll ask you after the class, Prabhu.
Okay. Okay, thank you all for joining.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah, thank you. And for participating. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.